Welcome to Location Filmmaking, and this is part 2 in framing and composition. So let's start with composition. What is composition? Well, composition is basically where you place the objects in the frame so that your human eye will be able to enjoy the size that the objects are in the frame in a proper artistic fashion. So we'll be talking about camera angles first. Three things to note: normal angle, high angle, and low angle. Normal angle is basically the height of the cameraman, the height of a normal person. How we look towards the world, how we see the world, that's the height that we set the camera to be. When we set the camera to high angle, this is where the tripod is above your subject. It gives you a godlike kind of view that we are looking down at mere mortals. Sometimes filmmakers use this because they want to show maybe a point of view of a security camera or a point of view of someone looking down from on top. But most importantly is that that person is small and it's minuscule. It has your point of view has a higher purpose. The opposite of that is a low angle. The camera is below the person and we see from below the hips of the person up. This particular angle would give your character a godlike status, a hero kind of shot. Filmmaker Michael Bay does this a lot in his movies, especially Transformers. You can do this after your hero has saved the day, or after your hero has discovered a bomb or saved someone, and he's smiling or she's smiling. Then you have the shot at this angle. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is the level of the camera. Whether the camera is normal level, as what we see the world, or it is a Dutch angle. Now, normal angle is basically what we see here. Okay, so that is exactly what we see the world. However, if it is Dutched, that means the camera angle is tilted. It kind of disorientates the viewer, and it gives us a sort of like a boat, a sinking kind of boat-like feeling. It kind of disorientate us. Now, a lot of filmmakers like to use this angle. It can be the point of view of the person that's drunk, the person's on drugs. It has a lot to do with a lot of anything, but you need to use this very sparingly because once you overuse this, it can get kind of distracting. Let's talk about framing, shall we? Framing is very crucial because it tells us how you should frame your characters in your film so that we can see the visual language clearly. So let's listen to what they have to say.
Framing your subject exactly in the center of the screen might be a good strategy if you're doing target practice. However, it doesn't make for a very interesting video shot. Fortunately, help is at hand with what's called the rule of thirds. To use the rule of thirds, imagine dividing your screen into thirds with 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines. Then place any interesting subjects in your shot along these lines and preferably at their intersections. Next up, let's look at head space. If you leave too much space above your subject's head, chances are the shot is going to look empty and a little bit awkward. This is easily fixed just by panning the camera down and ensuring you reduce the space above someone's head to a minimum. One thing to remember is if you're shooting a person, it's okay to cut them off at the top of the head, but just don't cut them off at the chin. When considering lead space, when your subject is travelling or facing in a given direction, always allow enough space in front of them for your audience to imagine where they might be going next. Consider this shot. I've intentionally removed the lead space from in front of the couple walking, and it looks like they might jump out of the frame at any time. Now look at the same shot with enough lead space in front of the couple walking, and it's a much more comfortable shot to look at. Finally, let's consider backgrounds. The background is a very important part of any shot composition. If you want to draw your audience's attention exclusively to your subject, you can use a very simple background like this. The background can also be used to add context to any shot and can tell part of the story for you. Just be careful that if your background is too busy, it can end up distracting your audience from the subject at hand. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video and see you again next time.
So the rule of thirds, which he explained just now, is basically taking your frame that you have and cutting it into lines like a tic-tac-toe, and it helps you to put your objects so that they look well balanced. A perfect example would be something like this. If you can see, the frame is broken up into lines and you have 9 squares there. I've placed one girl on the first line on the left. So she is on one side. This allow your eye to roam the empty space. So it gives you a nice feeling that one side is having an activity, another side is virtually nothing. And if you were to shoot this in a moving picture, you can get her to wait for her friend who is arriving, and then you place her friend in the other line. So while doing this, you symmetrically place both of them evenly on the lines, and your eye has space to roam and is not cluttered. You have to look out for headrooms, nose room, look room, and lead room. So what are they? Headrooms are basically the space between the top of the frame and the top of the person's head. Now, if you notice this particular girl, she has what we call like ample headroom. There is enough space. There is some space between her head to the edge of the frame. But if you bring the camera down, the head is cut off. If she is looking up, we might cut off her eyes. And below, we are just focusing on the wrong thing. So this is very inefficient headroom. On the total opposite, if we shift the frame too much, we see that here to here we have too much headroom, just too much space, and there's a lot of nothing that's going on here. So this is the wrong composition. Likewise, you need to also look at nose room. That's the tip of the nose to the edge of the frame. For example, if someone is talking on one side, please give ample space here so that there is space for our eyes to roam. Unfortunately, if you were to do this, she's too close to the edge and she's talking to someone on the next shot, which you're going to shoot later on. This has too much space on her back. Unless you are doing this on purpose, whereby there is a monster hand that's coming here to grab her shoulder, then that's fine. Other than that, if nothing's happening, you should not be doing this. Similarly to look room, if someone is standing perhaps on a balcony looking at the sunset, give ample space for her to look, also for our eyes to see the composition. However, if you don't give enough look room, this is just wasted space. But of course, unless your scene has someone who's going to walk past behind her and tap her on the shoulder, then this is fine. But if nothing's happening, then this is a wrong shot. Now, in contrast with that, just now what I explained, that was nose room and look room. That's basically when someone is just standing there. But when the person starts to move, the rules change. It's called lead room. Okay, that's the space for the person to move. So if the person is moving from one side to another side, your camera, you are following that person. You are basically panning from left to right or right to left. So as the person is walking, you make sure that he or she have enough space to walk and not some part is center, some part she's here, some part she's there. That's very poor camera handling skills. If you have insufficient lead room, it gives too much space at the back. But of course, if someone were to run after her, then this should be fine. Okay, it all depends on what is it that you want. So let's look at some of the other things that you need to take note of when you are framing for composition. Number one, watch out for things that comes from behind your actor. For example, if someone is to shoot your actor leaning against a flagpole, then the flagpole comes from your head and goes all the way up. It's not really very funny because it looks like the pole is sticking up from her back. So it just combines with her. That's not very pretty. Let's also look at symmetrical and non-symmetrical framing. Basically, what it means is that if you have two people, one on the left, one on the right, both of them are equal weightage in terms of size and position, we call them symmetrical framing. It's almost like if you take a mirror and you put it in the center, they will look almost the same. The opposite of that is non-symmetrical framing, whereby one person is on one side and the other side is totally empty. Okay, so this is non-symmetrical framing. So take note You can combine all these framing techniques, shot sizes, and when you add the story, it all will come together. All right, and that is what we will practice in class soon. So this is end of part 2 for framing and composition. Next, we'll be talking about continuity, whereby we will be talking about how important it is that you have something from one shot to the other shot, and they must be similar. If not, everyone is going to get confused.